Namaskar. Welcome to Vision of Asia Voice of Community. I'm Ashok Vyas. On ITV Gold this Sunday, as we meet, we will have some important stories, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi sharing his impressions and vision that his government has conveyed through Budget 2021. We'll also have weekly this week with Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh, his impressions about some of the hot button issues, a panel discussion related to salient features of Indian Budget 2021, including Dr. Jyoti Kiran Shukla and Jagdish Sevani. We will also have Mayor Sadaf talking to us about the importance of vaccination in USA, and there was a panel organized by ISAAW about vaccination in New Jersey that will be featured, as well as we'll have special conversation with the talented, amazing Advay Mishra. So all this coming up right after these short messages. Stay with us. Welcome back. You are watching Vision of Asia Voice of the Community, and one news headline that caught our attention was related to jumping with their might through tweets. Some international celebrities also shared their voice in support of farmers' agitation, to which Government of India also became more active in clarifying its stand and making it clear that there has been 11 discussions, meetings with farmers' representatives, and those who do not know about ground realities of India, based on some limited number of farmers' protests, have no business to mingle with Indian affairs. And many Indian celebrities have also responded, and there is hashtag India against propaganda that has become quite vibrant. Farmers Union called for Bandh this Saturday in India, and special measures were being taken by Government of India to counter that challenge. Keeping that aside, now moving towards the details of this year's budget presented by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
नमस्कार। वर्ष 2021 का बजट असाधारण परिस्थितियों के बीच पेश किया गया है। इसमें यथार्थ का एहसास भी और विकास का विश्वास भी है। कोरोना ने दुनिया में जो प्रभाव पैदा किया, उसने पूरी मानव जाति को हिलाकर रख दिया है। इन परिस्थितियों के बीच आज का बजट भारत के आत्मविश्वास को उजागर करने वाला है और साथ ही दुनिया में एक नया आत्मविश्वास भरने वाला है। आज के बजट में आत्मनिर्भरता का विजन भी है और हर नागरिक, हर वर्ग का समावेश भी है। हम इस बजट में जिन सिद्धांतों को लेकर चले हैं, वो हैं ग्रोथ के लिए नए अवसरों, नई संभावनाओं का विस्तार करना, युवाओं के लिए नए अवसरों का निर्माण करना, मानव संसाधन को एक नया आयाम देना, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर निर्माण के लिए नए नए क्षेत्रों को विकसित करना, आधुनिकता की तरफ आगे बढ़ना, नए सुधार लाना। साथियों, नियमों और प्रक्रियाओं को सरल बनाकर आम लोगों के जीवन में ईज ऑफ लिविंग को बढ़ाने पर इस बजट में जोर दिया गया है। ये बजट इंडिविजुअल्स, इन्वेस्टर्स, इंडस्ट्री और साथ ही इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सेक्टर में बहुत सकारात्मक बदलाव लाएगा। मैं इसके लिए देश की वित्त मंत्री निर्मला जी को और उनके साथी मंत्री अनुराग जी और उनकी टीम को बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। साथियों, ऐसे बजट देखने को कम ही मिलते हैं जिसमें शुरू के 1-2 घंटों में ही इतने सकारात्मक रिस्पांस आए। कोरोना के चलते कई एक्सपर्ट्स ये मानकर चल रहे थे सरकार आम नागरिकों पर बोझ बढ़ाएगी, लेकिन फिस्कल सस्टेनेबिलिटी के प्रति अपने दायित्वों को ध्यान में रखते हुए सरकार ने बजट साइज बढ़ाने पर जोर दिया। हमारी सरकार ने निरंतर प्रयास किया है कि बजट ट्रांसपेरेंट होना चाहिए। मुझे खुशी है कि आज अनेक विद्वानों ने इस बजट की ट्रांसपेरेंसी की सराहना की है।
And now time for This Week with Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh. Namaskar, welcome to This Week with Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh. Dr. Sir, welcome, namaste.
Namaskar, namaskar.
So, as I greet you today, we are just 2 days away from the declaration of budget in India, and this year's budget looked different than the other days, the other years in many ways. One of them, it was presented on tablet and there was no Bahi Khata. But more important, the vision that you saw through the budget, share your impressions.
Well, I mean, the current budget which was declared or tabled on day before yesterday, actually, not day before, yesterday only. And that budget is very focused towards the growth of the country. And that's why I think it's an excellent budget. Will take the country into self-sufficient, or what do you call it, Atmanirbhar country, because budget is mainly talking about they are putting a lot of money into the infrastructure, healthcare, manufacturing, and so forth. So that way, I think budget is really, really a great budget for growth of the country.
And because you are a physician yourself and have been active with India also through RP and other organizations, so there is substantial provision in this budget on health sector.
Yes.
How do you feel?
Yeah, it is, and I think that is very important because I mean we have over 1 billion people. Our healthcare system, it's came long way because myself is doctor. I'm graduated from India, so I know exactly how was the healthcare system 50 years ago, and now we came long way. And in order to compete with the world, and as well as to keep our people healthy, what government is doing is excellent work, and they are trying to kind of extend the healthcare all the way to small villages and small area of the country.
And from health to the way concerns of NRIs were also touched upon in this budget, special reference about making sure that there is no duplicacy of the taxes, etc. Would you like to comment on?
Well, yeah, that the tax, as far as NRI tax is concerned, there was no double tax, because if suppose if I have business in India, whatever I earn, if I pay tax there, then that tax I can get credited here in my tax return. So that was always there. But I'm sure that this time government has done little more kind of taxation thing, more liberal and more friendly to the NRI investors. And
while we always have heard about the ease of doing the business and attracting foreign direct investment. Through this budget, do you think there are some areas which would draw investors from other nations to work with India?
Yes, yes, because this budget is very investor friendly, particularly the foreign direct investment. And I think they opened up a lot of sector, including the airlines and so forth, for the foreign direct investment. And therefore, I think this budget is more NRI or foreign investors very friendly. And hopefully, whatever government is saying will be implemented on the ground, because sometimes there is a kind of a distance between what government meant to do and what happens in the bureaucracy.
That is that is so true, and it is a very important point. But on that front, I'll take a segue and come to the current status or situation as is faced in India due to farmers' agitation, and that seems to be continuing. And talk to me about the way this budget addressed the subject of growth for farmers and relief for farmers. And when we talk about ground realities, then in no plan any government ever would be able to have some provisions of the kind of loss which one experiences as a nation due to these kind of agitation. So touch upon these two sides.
Well, I mean, see, the agitation. I mean, government is trying to bring the complete reform in the farm agricultural sector, and so that's why the new laws are very good law to bring the reform. But again, at the same time, government should address the concern of the farmers by making it in the law, not just verbal assurance, because verbal assurance has not much meaning to it, because government changes or industrialists in the ground probably they may not follow what government intend to do that. And therefore I think that's what farmers, I think main concern is that minimum guarantee should be written in the law, not just assurance, because assurance has not much meaning in long term. And therefore I think if government does it, that otherwise government's this reform bill is excellent bill, is good for agriculture sector. It will reform the whole agricultural sector, and we will be more competitive in the world stage than what today.
So I must admit that I'm not well conversant with every detail of this bill and its provisions. But as far as I recollect, MSP has never been a part of a legal framework. This has always been a kind of understanding. And now probably they are seeking more assurance from government, which may result into some economic imbalance down the line. But I will I will leave it at that. The way things are at the moment looks like there will be more and more vigorous protests, and it has become sort of an ego battle also. Some of the farmers leaders or those who are representing them, their language also is not conducive for any potential successful negotiation. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's hard to give opinion on that from the distance, 10,000 miles distance. But again, in this kind of agitation, usually a lot of emotions are involved. And when the emotions are involved, and sometimes even antisocial elements are get involved in this thing, and therefore all this thing can happen. But we should not take our focus from the real issue, which is agricultural reform should be done. It is excellent idea, and some of the farmers' concerns should be addressed, because again, we should not forget the farming in India is different than farming in the Western world. Our farmers have small farms; they have only one or two crop to cultivate, and if something goes wrong because of the heavy rain or drought or whatever reason, then their family income will be kind of poor or zero. So that should be protected, and I think there's nothing wrong in helping the kind of less privileged people uh, to get the reform done, and eventually they all will understand, all will realize the benefit of this new law, and they will accept it. Right now, there is a lot of still miscommunication going on. It looks like that from the distance.
Absolutely. And you have rightly said that from a distance, but from a distance, based on whatever we read, I understand about 11 meetings took place, and farmers group didn't budge from their demand for repealing the bills, or repealing all these three farmer related bills. And if you work in a democracy by persuading, or let us say, I would say, forcing the parliament to change its decisions based on street sort of a demonstration, it may not work for health of democracy in the long run, because in that case, whatever government wants to do, there'll be X group with mobilized people, and so that is another issue which is a cause of concern.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. But again, the solution to that that whatever you are saying is that of course you can keep the new law as it is. You don't need to withdraw the reform laws, but you can always amend the law and include the concern of the farmer as a part of the law. Otherwise, farmer has no kind of resources or recourse to challenge if tomorrow any industrialist does some injustice to farmers.
So again, understanding that this is not my role, but that is what government is asking them, that share your concern, and they have tried to tell them that these concerns are addressed. But I hear you, and there are other forces also which have become a part of it. We saw what we saw on 26th January also.
Correct.
Yeah. Now moving forward in terms of Indo-US relationship, especially from the economic point of view under Biden administration, and with what you read through this budget, are you hopeful? You have some concerns? What is your take?
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic, because the way the Biden administration or history of any democratic administration, usually there is a lot of challenges, because Democratic Party is made up of conservative Democrat, moderate Democrat, and far left Democrat. And depending upon which group is more dominating, sometimes it can create a problem for a country like ours, India. Because in India, we have not only a homogeneous society, it is not a kind of a homogeneous religion. We have so many things, different, diverse religion, diverse culture, diverse background. So there, sometime outside India, they may perceive kind of little differently, and it could be they may perceive negatively, just like what New York Times and Washington Post and those people are writing against our current government. Even though you and me, we all agree that what government has done so far with the Kashmir issue, or with the CA issue or citizen issue, government is right, and still the perception in the Western world is different. So that can create a problem with the democratic administration.
So now that brings the role of Indian Americans, including leadership from someone like Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh, as you were instrumental in building of Indian caucus I think there are some proactive measures needed on the part of Indian American community to set the narrative right.
Absolutely, you are absolutely correct. And let me tell you, right within first, even before inauguration, um, uh, some congressmen were writing against the government on the subject of the farmer agitation, including my New Jersey senator and a couple of New Jersey congressmen. And I already started active lobbying and trying to convince them and connect them to even our consulate to explain to them what is the true government's position is, and to educate them so they should not perceive otherwise, differently.
Absolutely.
So,
And as we move towards the concluding part of our conversation, I want you to share how important it is for Parik Worldwide Media, ITV Gold to have formed tie-up with Prasar Bharati, and now DD would be made available to people away from India through us, and that is also going to play important role in increasing awareness about Indian culture, and also your thoughts and your feelings about this new development.
yes, I'm really very happy, very satisfied to see our tie-up with the Prasar Bharati, Doordarshan India, and by doing that, we will have exclusive kind of right to broadcast all the programs of the Doordarshan from the India. Indirectly, we will be broadcasting all the information kind of given by our government of India, their policy, their our Indian culture, Indian heritage, and the most important part, as far as I'm concerned personally, that this is the way I can connect my second generation Indian American to India, because the television or digital television has very powerful bonding effect. And right now, our second generation, young generation Indian American has not much information regarding the glory of India, progress of India, leadership of India. But having this Doordarshan programming, I will be able to convey this thing to my second generation, as well as other South Asian Americans, as well as Caribbeans, and so forth. So this is it's a very long-lasting, very long-lasting and very important vision we are going to carry out. And I thank you thank you for this agreement to our Prime Minister Narendra Bhai Modi, our Home Minister Shri Amit Shah, as well as Chairman, CEO of the Prasar Bharati. We really thank and we promise you that we'll do our best to make India look best in the world and make the India a world leader in next century.
So thank you very much. With that feeling of love for Bharat, many of our viewers would resonate with you. And as we conclude your parting remarks from today's session.
Yes, dear friends, it's really a privilege and honor to be a partnership with the Doordarshan India, Prasar Bharati, and indirectly propagating and publishing and conveying messages from the government of India, from the India, culture of the India, and bonding the second generation of Indian American as well as American to the India, and set the right narrative for India. So I'm very happy, very privileged, and I will do my best to make it happen successfully. So God bless America, God bless India, and God bless Indian Americans. Thank you. Goodbye till next week.
While this budget proves that government wants to work with vision of innovative approach with emphasis on digital marketing and many areas were touched upon that included health sector, that included special provisions to uplift the situation of farmers also. So here we have Dr. Jyoti Kiran Shukla and Jagdish Sevani sharing their views in response to this budget. There was something which was reassuring about this budget, to say it briefly. And what was your first impression, Jagdishji?
Absolutely. Ashokji, you rightly said, like we always said, Modi hai to mumkin hai. In spite of this COVID and all, this was the excellent budget India ever had. I must commend Prime Minister Modi and Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman ji for that. It was proactive, growth-oriented budget, and that is what is required right now to put India back on its feet. We need a growth rate of at least 9 to 10% if we want our economy to be 5 trillion, as our Prime Minister has always said. And this budget will lead us into that direction, Ashokji.
So now I want to see about the dreams and reality both together, Jyotiji. But before we get into the nitty gritty, what was your first impression, having seen budget process closely, the kind of philosophy and thought process that you see is projected through all these details?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ashok, for having me here, first of all. Most importantly, this budget is unique. It's a budget of very difficult times, but it's an extraordinary budget in many, many ways. And as we go in the program, I'll be telling you how and what are the numbers speaking. But before we start on numbers, I think two things that I'd like to communicate. The first and most important thing is the clarity of vision and consistency. The process that the government started in 2015-16, along with inclusive growth, Finance Minister very aptly described the 6 pillars of this particular budget, which had, of course, the economic inclusion, the infrastructure development. Now, the key things, two very important, it's totally an economist budget. So I am very pleased to give the features, but two fundamental features. Number one, it is absolutely a growth-oriented budget through investment, and that too, investment in the infrastructure. Secondly, the process is very interesting because we have done the economics of budget in a very careful, very ingenious manner. When the demand side was low, we worked on the supply side. India is the only country which has brought structural reforms, entire realm of structural reforms to bring in the supply side smoothly. And then we work on the demand side, and here we give it a huge impetus to demand. And second and most important part, of course, is the investment in the health infrastructure. मैं कहूंगी कि ये बजट स्वास्थ्य के क्षेत्र में क्रांति लाने वाला बजट है.
Welcome back to Vision of Asia. Every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, Vision of Asia is shared with all of you at 8 p.m. on ITV Gold, and special weekly edition of Vision of Asia is presented every Sunday at 11 a.m. We appreciate your continued support and love and encouragement. Stay with us. We'll be right back after these short messages. ISAAW organized a panel to highlight the importance of vaccination among Indian Americans also in New Jersey. With all these details, here are some glimpses of that panel discussion.
Perhaps if I could just start with Dr. Adenaro, because I know you've been dealing with this on a daily basis, to just speak a little bit about the common side effects that people should have when they get the vaccine. A lot of people just want to know, is it going to make me sick, and how am I going to feel when I'm done?
Sure. And just want to say good evening, everybody, and appreciate being invited to come join you all. Most of what we're seeing as common side effects are localized. It's pain at the site of the injection, arm pain. We do have some people who report some other symptoms, including fatigue and body aches. There's some evidence that The booster dose, so the second dose, will create a few more of these side effects, which are really just the immune response that the vaccine is generating in your body. And we've had very few cases of serious reactions, most of them being around an allergic reaction or something along those lines. They have been incredibly rare, and most of the more serious ones being on the order of fewer than one per 1,000 or even 10,000 injections so far in New Jersey.
So I think that's all very good news, and should, I hope, make people feel better about being confident to get the vaccine. I'm wondering, Dr. Murthy, if you would like to speak at all to within the South Asian community, are there particular concerns either towards the vaccine, a specific vaccine itself, or vaccines in general that we should be addressing and working to break down barriers?
South Asians in particular, there's a lot of confusion because data that's coming from India and that region looks like maybe mortality is low or, compared to other population. That is not always what we are seeing in the data coming from UK and other big national healthcare systems where, close to 100 million people are studied. So what we have to know is we do need to consider ourselves to be high-risk population for various reasons. One, obesity is not diagnosed at the right level for the South Asians because our cutoffs are very different. So many people who are obese are not aware that they are obese or overweight, or diabetes diagnosis, hypertension diagnosis has happened because people aren't getting routinely screened for these diseases. So South Asians are at risk at an earlier age, at an earlier weight, at a lower weight, compared to other population. So not considering that and worrying about the side effects of vaccine, whereas not considering the seriousness of the illness is not wise, right? If you talk to your own doctors, and if you talk to all the doctors in New Jersey, I don't know many doctors who are not taking their vaccination. Why are they all open to taking the vaccination? We have to ask, because they have seen the difficulties in the hospital, and every single day we have supported multiple members of multiple South Asian families to be in various parts of the hospital with various levels of complications. We are not trying to cure COVID-19, but we don't want you all to end up in the hospital. We don't want you to all have complications. So this is a way to address COVID-19 with the most possible solutions we have right now. It's not perfect, but we need to be open to it. We need to do whatever we know right now, whatever is accessible to us to prevent it. And ideal solutions or optimal solutions will come. Right now, not having a lot of doubts, fears, anxieties about well-researched vaccines is important. And to be open to taking it and taking it promptly when it's available to you, and not nitpicking about Pfizer versus Moderna. What is the minor side effect profile difference? Should I wait for J&J vaccine and so on? Isn't wise. Again, what's available to you locally, easily, is well researched, and just follow the direction that the state is giving us.
I had a couple of questions for you, but let me just first start with this issue of communication and talking to people and kind of, we at the state realize that we have a certain responsibility to provide information, but sometimes the more local you get, the better the information is received. So I think a two-part question for you is, what do you hear and see in Middlesex of questions that are coming up? And what is Middlesex County, as an example, doing to help facilitate the vaccine program? Because we know the counties are very engaged and involved in this.
Until January 21st, Middlesex County had its own registration site. Many of the counties did. But as of January 22nd, we transitioned to the state site. We made a decision because the infrastructure, assuming we are going to get more vaccine dosages, the infrastructure we really feel strongly, it has to be coalesced into one system to make everything move, fairly and efficiently. So there's these two overarching issues: getting it distributed throughout the state fairly and efficiently. And so right now, if you were to go to the Middlesex County site, and we've made it very clear, we have areas, COVID-19, you go to that page, and we have testing links because we're still testing all over the county. We have multiple sites where people can come get tested, and we have mobile units. So that's still going on while we're also trying to get the vaccine out to people. So when you come onto our site now, if you are trying to register for the actual vaccine, there's a link and it takes you to the state site. One of the things we've made a commitment to in Middlesex is right now, if there's still issues while they're working out the bugs on the state site, and also because we're aware there are people who don't have access to the technology, right? They don't have cell phones, or they don't have computers, or they're not savvy with them. There are a lot of our members of our senior population who aren't really good at this stuff. Not everybody has, grandkids at the ready to get their grandparents through the sites. So we made a commitment in Middlesex County, and I know a number of other counties have done this as well, since I've been in touch with county commissioners from different parts of the state. There's a number that you can call into to Middlesex County's health department, and we have that being manned 9 to 4, I'll say 9 to 4, or 8:30 to 4, 8:30 to 4. You can call in and ask questions, but if you also need help registering, there will be someone on the other line who will do that with you, who will walk you through that. And if you don't have the computer, they will be on a computer and they will register you. So that's a commitment we've made. Another big question we've had recently is people who are concerned because they might have gotten the first dose in a Middlesex local site. Because as Deborah mentioned, there are 6 mega sites, and one of the mega sites happens to be in Middlesex at Raritan Center in Edison. That's a fully state-run site. But Middlesex County, like many of the counties, we have separate sites throughout the county. We have the capacity to operate 6 simultaneously. We have not been doing that yet because we don't have enough vaccine. So we've taken different periods of time. In 1 week, we might open a center in Piscataway for several days. This past week, we opened one in East Brunswick for the first time.
Mayor Sadaf talked to Aditi Lamba for us and shared the importance of vaccination program across USA. Here are some highlights from that conversation.
So let's start this interview just discussing the cases and deaths your township is seeing currently. Are you seeing a downward trend as we're seeing across many states in this country?
Definitely. Yeah, it was quite high around December, end of December, January. The numbers were quite high, but we have seen a decline in rates of infection. And I think it definitely has to do with the numbers of people who are getting vaccinated against COVID-19.
Yes, definitely. Let's talk about the hospitals, Mayor. What is the condition of hospitals in your township? And, the following question is, if the surge was to get bad, are you all prepared with your PPE, ICU beds, and ventilators?
I believe that New Jersey is prepared. I mean, it is difficult to see, especially healthcare professionals and doctors succumbing to the virus after treating it for so long. But thankfully, the levels have not been very high lately. I know that there's a lot of concern over the new strains that are more infectious and the impact that might have. But I do believe that we will be as prepared as we can be for the wave.
Let's go into more about science here. Vaccines, these are being talked about everywhere in this country right now. There is a shortage of supply of the vaccine. What is happening in your township and in New Jersey, if you can give us an insight into it?
Well, the vaccines are distributed from the federal government, and unfortunately, there just wasn't the stockpile that the states expected and were told was coming. And so now it really is up to the new federal administration to try to produce as many vaccines as possible and to distribute them to the states. So the infrastructure in New Jersey is ready to distribute those vaccines. It's just that we don't have the supply coming in yet.
What changes do you think the new administration needs to make to distribute this vaccine rollout faster? Because we need about 70% of the population vaccinated to really fight this disease.
I think that part of it is just managing expectations. I think that it's a huge undertaking to vaccinate 70 to 80% of the entire population, and it's not going to happen overnight. I do think that we need clarity from the federal government as to how long this is going to take, but also that letting us know what they're doing to make sure that they're producing as much as possible of the vaccine to get it to us all as fast as they can.
And this pandemic has been disproportionately impacting Black and brown communities. We've talked about this before on the show. When you look at the vaccine rollout, are you seeing the same trend?
Absolutely. On the one hand, there is a hesitance on the part of some minority communities to be vaccinated because of the history of, very deserved distrust of the medical establishment. But then on the other hand, it just is the case that wealthier communities, and those tend to be whiter populations, tend to be getting access to the vaccine more easily. So we need to make sure that there is an equitable distribution of the vaccine throughout the country, but I don't think we've accomplished that goal yet.
Let's talk a little bit about the economy here, the stimulus that everyone's looking at. How important is that for your township, and how much help do you need from state government and then federal government?
It's definitely very important, particularly for, people who are in the lower income brackets, that they get this help, because it can really mean the difference between them being able to pay their rent, buy groceries, or not being able to do so. So it's very important that the stimulus package be pushed through for those who have lost their jobs, particularly, and for those who are in lower income brackets and really need the help. I also think that we need to make sure that we're keeping our businesses afloat during this period until we do get to the point of having a vaccinated population that can start, going to businesses more frequently. So there is definitely a need. People are stretched pretty thin, and I'm very hopeful that the stimulus package goes through, and it should be as ambitious as possible, because if not now, when can we expect the federal government to come through for us?
Right. And just talking a little bit more about the economy, and you just mentioned businesses, small scale businesses have been thoroughly impacted by this COVID-19 crisis. What kind of help do they need in your township and in New Jersey? And is that kind of help coming from the state or the federal government?
Well, traditionally you would expect that sort of help from the federal government, but seeing that we didn't have a lot of it until recently, there really wasn't that much of an emphasis on helping small businesses. The state of New Jersey did step in with grants for business rent, relief, as well as small business grants. And so a number of the businesses in my community did take advantage of that. But, that needs to be something that's continual, as not a one-time benefit. So we really need to have an ambitious plan for how to keep businesses afloat.
Advai Mishra is chosen as one of the talented students by John Hopkins Talented Student Search. This 8-year-old kid has shown exceptional grasp and understanding of themes, subjects like organic chemistry, coding. Earlier, he was very good at memorizing all the details related to maps and flags and currencies of many, many countries. We talked to Advai Mishra, and here are some parts of that conversation. Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and I'm delighted to be joined by someone who we look up to in New York as a senior member of our community who is immersed in the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. And he's blessed by his guru, Hariharji Maharaj, who founded Gita centers across the globe. And now, as he joins me today, I also take this opportunity of congratulating him, Kapoor Sahab, on receiving this International Council for Cultural Integration that has conferred Global Award on you. Once again, namaste, welcome.
Thank you.
So let us begin by looking at the recent glory, which when it comes to you, I look at it as another glory for Bhagavad Gita, because you're so much now synonymous with the teaching of Gita at several places. So tell me how it made you feel, because ICCI, International Center for Cultural Integration, the name itself kind of resonates with the spirit of Gita.
Well, Ashokji, thank you very much for inviting me to the studio. And definitely, this award was very prestigious. And they confer these awards to the individuals who are outstanding in their services to the community, in art, in spirituality, and other contributions. And as far as Srimad Bhagavad Gita is concerned, this award is very little in terms of the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita's wisdom is universal. That is the beauty. And these days, when the world is torn apart by small boxes, self-styled sampradayas, religions, the need of Srimad Bhagavad Gita is more than ever. And having said that, the applicability of Srimad Bhagavad, there are 700 verses and 18 chapters, 3 schools of thoughts, and the devotion, the karma, and the knowledge, jnana. Bhagavad Gita is a science of mind, and there are many choices because there are many types of people. Depending upon your own constitutional setup, anybody can select any approach, but the apex point is the same. So there is no conflict. And I was very much blessed by Swami Hariharji Maharaj. He infused in the young minds all over the world the spirit of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. He established.
Now, let me take this opportunity of welcoming you and seeking some clarification. You said there is no conflict, whereas it is all about resolution of the conflict with which the teaching of Gita, if we say, or the dialogue between Arjuna and Sri Krishna happens at the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So conflicts are there in our lives, whether external conflicts or internal conflicts. And let us talk about internal conflicts, and let us draw a parallel from the situation of Arjun, where he felt confused whether it is the right thing to do to fight or to just leave everything because everyone belongs to him, etc. And if we look at our lives, there are many instances where we feel unsure whether we should go ahead or we should not. So, in what way the teaching of Gita may help us in being clear and sure about the next step, about the direction that we should take?
It's a beautiful question. So let me say a few things. According to the wisdom of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we have 3 bodies. One is the physical body, one is the emotional body, and one is the spiritual body. There are 3 layers. And a common man is not aware of that knowledge. The common man, who is always torn apart by the conflicts. They are only dealing with the first layer, the body. And when he or she is tired by struggling with his physical body, he or she touches sometimes the emotional body. Emotional, like we have IQ and EQ, emotional quotient. And that layer, that is the kingdom of mind. It is the mind over body. If the mind is strong, the body is strong. If the mind is weak, it's an open invitation to the immune system of the body, and we become sick without knowing. So we, in order to understand in this type of atmosphere, we should be more careful about the emotional body. Emotional body means, like I'm just sharing with you one small example to make the point clear. It starts with the desire. Everybody desires certain things. And when we multiply the desires, that is the problem. So desire is immediately converted into action. And action has, when you take the action, there are two options, either success or failure. Success is sukh and failure is dukh. So sukh and
So
dukh.
I interrupt you because what you are saying in it itself, it is quite convincing and it is moving with profound logic. But there are few steps in between. So when you say success is sukh, success may not always be sukh, is the experience of many people. They succeed, but they feel that things are not making them happy. That is a common theme which we encounter because sometimes successful people are also frustrated. But desire and action, that relationship you mentioned, but I just want to bring you back to the dilemma of an individual who has the potential, but he is confused whether he should, let us say, sign this deal or not, whether he should travel at this point of time or not, etc., etc. There could be several. So maybe what you are saying, continue with that, but connect with how Gita helps us in our decision making process, or where we can sort of connect with the message of Gita to have a better and insightful decision.
Ashok, the focal point of Bhagavad Gita is where it starts, that Arjuna, the main character. Arjuna is not a single person. He represents the whole humanity. It's a dialogue between man and God. Man is the humanity. So all human beings go through that process. When there's an emotional shock, it could be anything. When you're emotionally disturbed, then the power of discrimination between right and wrong is compromised. We don't know what is right, what is wrong. And that was Arjuna's problem. He was asking, throughout his life, it's a funny thing to say, throughout his life, he is a warrior of par excellence. And war was just a play. But this time, when his emotional layer was totally compromised by looking at the other side of the enemy, his emotional body was totally disturbed and his mind became very weak. He was very suicidal. People who are in a mode of mind when they are suicidal, they exactly talk like him, they behave like him, and that's why the police comes and they try to persuade him, oh, please calm down, please calm down. There is a better way.
Time to say goodbye from today's Vision of Asia, but also a moment to share with you. We have a very vibrant Facebook page. Be friends with ITV Gold on our Facebook page and subscribe to ITV Gold's YouTube channel. Keep writing to us, events@itvgold.com. And now, once again, wishing a great week ahead. Stay safe, stay healthy. This is Ashok Vyas.